Hey, Curt Hennig fans. Hello and welcome to another episode of Curt Hennig Was the Best, Changed My Mind. I am your host, Steph. This is episode 17. Today on our perfect podcast, we're going to hear Konnan and Disco Inferno who answered my email. Yep, got another email answered. I would like to thank Disco Inferno and Konnan for answering my email. We will listen to them first and then I'll talk about it afterwards. But before we start, please join me on my YouTube and Rumble channels, where if you like what you hear, you can subscribe, comment, like, and share so we can grow this channel. The links for both will be in the description field below this video. I would like to give a shout out and a thank you to my paid patron member, Charlie Brown Politics. Thank you, Charlie Brown, for your support. If you too would like to support my channel for as low as $1 a month, please click the link in the description field below this video to become a paid patron supporter. You will also get your name read on the show. For $3 a month, you will get your name read on the show and you will get to ask me a question which I will read and answer. For $5 a month, you can get all this plus an exclusive behind the scenes of how I do my show and also a blooper reel. Because trust me, I screw up a lot. So please click the link in the description field below this video to sign up today. Okay guys, and we're back. So, just like we said in the opening, yes, I do actually have another email that was answered by Konnan and Disco Inferno. It's actually kind of funny how I wrote this email really fast, but it was a spur of the moment kind of thing. And I was kind of like, oh, well, I was kind of poking fun of Disco Inferno. I was kind of like, the episode, it's, if anyone wants to go see the episode of Disco versus Curt Hennig in WCW, it's actually December 22nd, 1997. So if you want to go check that out on Peacock, if you have a subscription or whatever, I mean, it's a really cool match because you have to understand. So the NWO took over Nitro, right? Because this was the big, before Starrcade 97. So this was the big, Disco Inferno, sorry, not Disco Inferno. But the NWO had taken over Nitro because the Larry Zbyszko, Bischoff match. So Eric Bischoff and Larry Zbyszko were actually going to wrestle and it was for Nitro. So if Eric Bischoff had won, the NWO was going to get Nitro. And I don't know what WCW would have done. But I did see something a while ago on Eric Bischoff's podcast where he talks about, actually, the NWO was supposed to have Thunder. I don't know if that's true or not, but I guess that's why he had said something to the effect of, oh, well, this is the reason why we have, another show is because the NWO was supposed to get Thunder, and that's why they had a lot of members. So there's people now who sit back and go, why were there a lot of people in the NWO? Well, this is the reason why. I guess they were supposed to get Thunder, and then that never happened, so. They also had WCW Saturday Night, and that was just kind of like, it was like WWF Primetime where they would kind of go over the week shows, and I don't know if they would do house shows. It kind of seems like that, because like if you ever watch Primetime Wrestling, they would always do either like shows from Saturday Night Main Event, or they would do like, I'm guessing they would do house shows that you never really got to see, but if you tuned into Primetime, you actually would get to see them. So I'm guessing it's like that. I don't know. I'm just guessing. So anyway, that episode of Nitro, yes, the NWO took over, and it, of course, it was Curt that faced Disco Inferno. And before the match, it just seemed like, I don't know, like, it just seemed like Curt was laughing about something. Like, I don't know if someone made a joke or something. I don't know. I don't think Disco remembers exactly, what happened there. So I'm not really sure, that's why I was kind of like in the emails, like, what are you guys laughing about? You know, do you remember what you guys were, if you were joking about stuff? I love how he goes, you know, oh my gosh, you know, a girl has a podcast. That's really weird. Why is that weird that a girl can admire perfection, right? So anyway, I'll let you listen to it, but just a little background. Konnan, I know, had talked about Curt before. He talked about, you know, that Curt was drunk and still like winning, and he was supposedly gambling and he was still winning and stuff. I mean, Curt was good at all that stuff. So it doesn't surprise me that he was, not on top of his game, but, you know, he was still winning. He could still throw the darts and stuff, even though if he was like drunk or something. And like I said, you know, he always trusted Larry, so Larry the Axe was always with him. And it's nice to, you know, have fun with your dad. Okay. I'm a daddy's girl, so I'm going to say that I always had fun with my dad too. We would go out and do stuff, you know, as a father and daughter would do. So, being close to a parent is something really cool and awesome to do. So I kind of get where Curt's coming from there. But we're definitely going to listen to it. It's only like 4 minutes, but they go into, you know, Disco reads my whole, email, and I had forgotten what I wrote. So I probably was just typing really fast because I was at work, and I was like, I'm just going to send an email because trust me, if you give me an email address to your podcast, you take questions and stuff, oh, you know, I'm going to ask about Curt. That's like, I mean, it's like 101 right there. It's going to be, what did Curt Hennig do to you? And what kind of ribs did he do to you? Because I like to hear feedback from certain wrestlers who, you know, were with him and got to know him. And in a way, I feel closer by their stories to Curt, as I'm a huge fan of Curt Hennig. So, and I mean, everybody kind of knows, you know, that's what this is for. That's why we're here today. We're here to talk about Curt and his legacy and the kind of wrestling he had. So I think that hearing all these stories is something really special. And I don't know any about you, but if you do like Curt Hennig or Rick Rude or whatever, I always hear stories about Rick Rude was a badass. That's one guy I wouldn't want to mess around with. I definitely would be like, yes, sir. No, sir. Of course, Mr. Rude. Yes. There would be no messing around with that dude. I definitely, I mean, especially if you heard the kind of stories I've heard. I would like to do, a couple of stories that I heard on YouTube about Rick Rude. I mean, if you don't know by now, you should. That Rick Rude, of course, he loved to smoke weed. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong. I don't do it myself, but, you know, to each their own. I would love to get out for the fans who like Rick Rude, excuse me, not Ric Flair. I do not like Ric Flair. Sorry. Wasn't really big on Ric Flair. Sorry. Rick Rude. I would like to get out there I heard some stuff on the Jim Cornette show, and I also heard some stuff on the Stone Cold podcast about Rick Rude and hunting. Rick Rude was not much of a hunter, apparently. So I would love to share that with my audience that does like Rick Rude. So that will be coming in the later episodes. I actually just did episode 16. It just kind of all happened. I had a few people comment about Rick Rude. So, there definitely will be some more Rick Rude content coming out because, like I said, there's really sweet stories, that people have said about him. There's a funny one from Jim Cornette. So we're definitely going to hear that one. I was like, the funny story, when you hear it from Jim Cornette, I swear to you, I actually looked it up to see if I could find this. I could not find it on eBay. So stay tuned if you want to hear more about that. But I mean, there's more content coming. Of course, there's all kinds of stuff out there about Curt. I have so much planned. I tried to share the face-to-face on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. Unfortunately, it didn't go very well, so I just kind of pulled it down, and I was like, well, we'll talk about that on the show. So it's a face-to-face with Kerry Von Erich and Curt Hennig, who was known as Mr. Perfect. I love when Sean Mooney goes, Mr. Perfect, this is a family show. And I just kind of went, it's not like he whipped his dick out. Just shaking my head going, wow, okay. But that's a good one. I also would like to do a watch along with the SummerSlam, match between Kerry Von Erich and, Curt Hennig, of course, Mr. Perfect, at SummerSlam 1990, which is where I saw Curt for the very first time. And I was just like, boy, he jumps around the ring. He's a really good wrestler. And that's when I officially became a Curt Hennig, Mr. Perfect fan, was 1990 when I was 4 years old. So I think that it's something to look forward to in the future, and we got a whole lot of content coming out. This is not going to be a long one, guys, because there's just really not a lot to say, but hopefully I'll try to get as much as I can. And like I said in the opening, if you want to subscribe, you can. Everything will be in the description field, so let's go ahead and listen to this email, and I'll catch you on the other side.
This is day 2 of the mailbag. Mr. Perfect is perfect, and the subject is Curt Hennig. Konnan and Disco. Disco, I love the match with you and Curt on December 22nd, 1997, as I'm a huge Curt Hennig fan. I love hearing about his ribs. I love watching his wrestling. You remember that match? Was he cracking jokes? I saw him laughing before the match started. I have a joke that came to mind when I watched that match live back in 97. That was, hey, Disco, the 70s called and they want their gimmick back. LOL. Konnan, I love when you guys did the West Texas Rednecks against rap groups like Master P. What is your favorite memory from Curt and the West Texas Rednecks? What do you think of Curt getting on stage with Chad Brock? I have a podcast about Curt called Curt Hennig Has Changed My Mind. I would, Chad Brock, remember the country music guy. I would love it if you checked it out. Also, can you both tell me what was the greatest rib he ever pulled on both you and Disco? That's Stephanie from Lancaster County. I was a girl. That's Mr. Perfect. That's interesting. The best rib he never pulled any ribs on me and Konnan, but he did the rib he pulled on was on Kidman. Was he sold Kidman's blue jeans, his blue jean shorts. So Kidman had to go to get some black jeans and cut them up and go out there with black jeans on. But the funniest thing is Curt was going he's the one that did it. And he was going to go around, hey guys, we got to find Kidman shorts. Like he was like the one leading the search for the shorts, and he's the one that took them. That was hysterical.
Right. Plus he also handcuffed Dave Penzer's suitcase to the roof.
Right. My match with Curt Hennig was I don't know what they were doing, but I just won the TV title, and they booked me to do a job against Curt, who was the United States Heavyweight Champion. I didn't understand what the purpose of that was, but
I think he had actually just lost the belt to Paige at Starrcade.
Was that what it was? Because this is a non-title. They booked me a non-title match with Curt. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, they were giving him a win back.
Because here was the thing.
Without you losing the title.
Right. Yeah. But I think the thing was that, because Terry Taylor kind of booked me to win the title because I was supposed to do the job to Jackie coming up, I think they kind of got a hold of that and were kind of still wanting to make me look bad.
You know what I think it was? This is what I think it was. You had good heat back then. So he was going to beat somebody with heat without taking the title. That's what I think. Yeah.
How was the rest? What did you think about the West Texas Rednecks? That was
first of all,
really was funny.
Curt Hennig was introduced to me by Scott Hall the first time by a guy called Love Machine, because they both worked in Portland. So I'd actually met him in WWE before. But I loved him. One night we were in Vegas with his dad, Larry the Axe Hennig. Remember him?
Yes.
Bro, people should see this guy. He was a humongous guy, looked like a lumberjack type guy, and was very in the ring, just very physical.
Yeah, I took a shot to him. He punched me in ringside.
Did he?
Yeah, it was hysterical. It was like, we did think I go over and go, his dad is, because they were in Minnesota, Yeah.
I'd like to see that. I didn't see.
And you know what was weird about that?
Right.
Just sorry, come real quick. Jesse Ventura was there right next to Larry, another Minnesota guy. He hadn't become governor yet, and him and Bischoff had issues because Art fired him. So you could see Jesse on the camera, but he was never acknowledged by the announcers,
Really?
Yeah. Little useless facts.
So, no, it's a cool fact. I didn't know it. Anyways, there were a couple girls there, like in the mix, hanging out. And bro, he was just, and I'm not kidding, Glenn, he was just throwing the dice and hitting, and I was like, this is crazy. And then we went to the blackjack table, which, as you know, is my favorite, and he was doing really wild, like hitting on 17 and not going over.
Right.
I mean, it was ridiculous, this guy. I couldn't believe it. Yeah, right. He was perfect, bro. He was in that whole time laughing, drinking, having a good time.
He's like shots at Jack Daniels.
Yeah, he was always He was always in a good mood. And he didn't really like at first the redneck idea, the Texas whatever.
Yeah, but he's getting over. So he liked
it. And I told him, and I remember telling him in the locker room once, I go, bro, let's just make this work and have fun getting in the dumps. You know, you're Curt Hennig. Let's make this work. You know, it ups our stocks. And like, we got on board and we had a great time every night.
Okay, guys, and we're back. So I actually was just listening to this email myself, and boy, was I laughing up a storm. All right, let's start with the beginning. So yes, it was my email that I had written, like I said, really fast at work. And I love it how Disco says, "Oh, it's Stephanie from Lancaster County." I went, "No, Disco, come on." Listen, Glenn, if you want to be a Lancaster County person, it's Lancaster. Not Lancaster. We're not Lancaster, California. We're Lancaster, PA. And let me just say, for all the folks that don't know where Lancaster, PA is, it's the heart of Amish country. And if you ever want to see a lot of Amish, all I can tell you is, I'm not Amish myself, but thank the goddess for that. If you ever want to see a lot of Amish people show up, just come to our local fairs in Lancaster County. I can guarantee you're going to see a lot of Amishmen around these local fairs, okay? So, yes, I am stationed actually in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and it's Lancaster. If you're going to be a native here, you're going to act like us, it's Lancaster. It's not Lancaster. I know. And I've had a lot of people say, "Oh, it's Reading." No, it's Reading. It's pronounced Reading. Yes, it's spelled Reading, PA, but it's actually pronounced Reading. I know. Reading is Redding, and Reading, PA, or as a lot of people have said, it's Reading, PA. No, it's Reading. It is spelled Reading. So, but the natives here, again, if you're going to be in PA, you're going to be one of us. It's Lancaster and it's Reading. Okay. Not Reading, California, Reading, PA. Okay. I know the Nasty Boys, I actually looked this up, and they're actually from Allentown, PA, which is about 2 hours northeast of us. Pretty sure. Look it up. Anyway, yes, it is Lancaster. It is not Lancaster. That's how you can tell the difference between us and California. PA and California. I'm sure in California it's pronounced Lancaster. Here in PA it's called Lancaster. And that's for all my Lancaster people. Shout out to everybody in Lancaster, PA, alright? Even the Amish people. Alright. So, one of the other things that just got me going was I literally made Konnan laugh at my own joke. Which was great. Yeah, when I was going through, like I said, this is before Starrcade, so this would be before Curt lost the belt to DDP at Starrcade 97. And this is when the NWO takes over, and I didn't talk to Eric Bischoff, but I listened to Eric Bischoff talk about it, and he's like, "Oh, it took way too long, the NWO was destroying things and then putting the NWO kind of on it." But for what it was what it was. I mean, you can't take it back now, and it was literally the NWO taking over. And I didn't say anything wrong with it. I just wish that Curt would have been out there with Rude and like, take it down! Take that down! Take that down! I guess, Curt had better things to do in the back. I don't know. I wasn't there, but I do remember seeing that live. And if you actually go back on Peacock and watch that, it is December 22nd, 1997. And it's when literally it's like, I don't know if it's like 20 minutes in, but it's like 20, 30 minutes in. And you just see Scott Norton, you see Buff Bagwell, you see Konnan, you see, Rick Rude. And they're just telling people to take the signs down. You're like, you want to lose your job? Are you NWO or not? It's hilarious. I was laughing the whole time. I just love it. He's like, yes, we tell them what to do and they do it. Yeah, that's because they don't want to get beaten up, Buff. Anyway, yes, when I saw the Curt Hennig Disco Inferno match, the first joke that came to my mind, and I don't even know what they were joking about because I don't think Disco remembers either. All I remember is that Curt was literally smiling and laughing about something. So I figured he had said a joke to Disco before, like when they were just kind of walking around the ring. They hadn't even like hooked up in a lockup yet. So I was like, okay, what's so funny? I thought maybe Disco would remember. And then I just kind of was like, well, wouldn't it be kind of fun if I were actually there beside Curt and be like, just making fun of him? Like, poking fun. Not making fun, poking fun. I only kid out of love, Disco. I only kid out of love. I'm sure Curt did too. And especially if Curt hadn't have thought of this, I would have given it to him. I would let him say it, actually. I'd be like, go ahead, Curt. Tell him the joke I told you. And the joke was, ring, ring. Hello? Yeah? Okay. Hey, Disco, the 70s called. They want their gimmick back. It was, I don't know why it came to my head, but I'd be like, go ahead, you tell it, Curt. You're better at it than I am. There was another one. Oh, I think I would look at him and go, oh, by the way, Disco, you do know the 70s, Disco died in the 70s? This is the 90s. I don't know if Disco was trying to make a comeback, but I'll tell you what, I would have fun with Disco. And like I said, I kid out of love. But yeah, it would be like, you do know that Disco died in the 70s, right? This ain't the 70s no more, honey. I can't do a Dusty Rhodes impression. I'll tell you what, someone who does a really good Dusty impression is Jim Cornette. I mean, spot on. It's like, literally, it sounds like Dusty walked in the room. I'm not even kidding. It's just so great. So anyway, I made Konnan laugh, and I feel like I've accomplished something. That I made the great Konnan laugh. 'Cause I remember he would come out and do that, Olale, arriba la lasa. I'm just like, okay. It was a good time. Like I said, if I were there, I would have said the jokes, but I probably would have let Curt do that. But anyway, let's just put it this way. I wanted to be a Nitro girl because I could do anything those chicks could do. I just was only like 11 years old. Yeah, in 97, I know. I would only be 11 years old, so, dreams are for dreams, right? But yeah, I would have loved to be a Nitro girl, cause literally I could do anything those chicks could do. The only thing I couldn't do would be a horizontal, split. I could do a vertical one, but not a horizontal one. Sorry, I tried. Actually, when I was about 3 years old, I was flexible enough to do a horizontal split and able to touch my stomach to the ground. Of course, I was 3 and 4 back then. So I was able to do it at one time. Anyway, this episode is kind of unique because, and I think we should do a watch along with it sometime. At least Curt's match with Disco Inferno, because it was a good match. I'm sure they talked about it beforehand. And, you know, it was a non-title match, so it wasn't like title versus title or anything. Because he was just about to face Jackie. Or no, he had just faced Jackie at World War III. Right. This is after the Jackie match. Which I thought was kind of stupid. Not that I don't think women should have matches with men. He was the TV title holder. He had the TV belt. And I, honestly, if you're gonna have a match with Jackie or with any woman, why can't it be for the title? Again? Yeah. They came out on Nitro one time and said, oh, well, it's, the gaming commission said, or some kind of commission said that, Jackie couldn't have the belt. Why? Because she was a woman? Trust me, she looked better than Disco. No offense, Disco, but yeah. I don't understand why they wouldn't let Jackie have the belt. You can't have a man's belt? That's just ridiculous. Of course, I mean, it was 97. What do you expect, right? So I had a lot to say about the whole Jackie and him feud, because I think, even though she won the match, I still think she should have been, I mean, he had the belt. He had the TV belt. Why can't a woman have the TV belt? Excuse me. Try saying that fast. There's just no, I understand why Jackie left. I think she left shortly after that and went to WWE. And I see why. Because that's just absolutely ridiculous. Why a woman couldn't have a man's title. Oh, well, she gets her own. Why? Again. If Disco's willing to have a match with her, why couldn't it be for a man's belt? They did it for China. I think she was the IC champion. Somebody check that on. Look that up. But I'm pretty sure she was the IC champion. I don't know if she was heavyweight champion or not. But anyway, I mean, that's a man's title, and they did it for China. Why couldn't they do it for Jackie? That doesn't make any sense. So anyway, the match with Disco was, pretty cool. And of course, Curt did his Hennig plex. And I love it because Rick Rude goes, "Oh, that was perfect." Oops. I'm just like, oh, don't want to get WCW sued now, do you? But what's funny is Hogan, when Curt turned on the Four Horsemen, the next night on Nitro, if I remember correctly, Hogan said that, you know, he's like, oh, today's been technically perfect. So I was like, oh, Hogan gets to say it, but, you know, ooh, Rick, watch it. No, I'm sure nothing happened because Rick Rude went, perfect. Oops. Though I do like it because it's like, oh no, you don't want to say that word. I don't know if I just know that Eric Bischoff talked about a couple of, lawsuits that Scott Hall was acting like Razor Ramon or something, and WWE was suing them because of it, because he was still throwing the toothpick and stuff. Well, Curt was still throwing his towel and slapping his gum, so, whatever. So I think, as long as they didn't use their certain names, I guess, I don't know. I'm not really sure how that all went down. All I know is that, it was a good match. I keep getting off, on tangents, but, I remember there was a funny, not a rib, but like a funny bit that Curt did with, I think Rick Rude, that he want a Halls? No, they're just too sweet. I was kind of like poking fun of Scott Hall. That was kind of funny. I don't remember that was in 1998, but I don't remember what episode. I'd have to get you a date on that one to check that out on Peacock. If you have a subscription, even if you don't, I think they have where you can get you would have to watch ads, but you can get to watch all that stuff. But, so yeah, that was, pretty interesting that he had mentioned the Disco Inferno match. And like I said, I am so happy I made Konnan laugh. Those are just my jokes though. It just flashed in my head as if Curt Hennig had put it there. Maybe wherever Curt is, he's kind of like, idea, flick. I don't know. I do know that came to mind when I first saw the Disco Inferno match with Curt. I actually probably thought that back when I was 11. So when I first saw Disco Inferno, I was kind of like, disco. This is 97, not 77. What is he doing? So, I mean, but I love it that, at least I could get a little laugh out of Konnan at the latest. So, alright, take a little break and we'll be right back. Okay guys, and we're back. So, I wanted to do a little bit about the West Texas Rednecks. I do want to do a listen along if I didn't get any copyright strikes. I was thinking I could probably sing the song, that Curt sings. Only it would be a little higher and a higher octave. But I was thinking if I couldn't play the song for you, that I could probably just sing Rap is Crap. Trust me, every time that man would come out, I'm telling you, I was singing that song. Because along with Curt, I'm also a very huge, country music fan. So, and especially 90s country is the country I grew up with. Now, Curt grew up with a little older country than I was a little used to. There's only one song I know, from Hank Williams Sr., and that's, Hey Good Lookin'. And that's because, they redid it in the early 2000s. So, it was Alan Jackson, Jimmy Buffett, Toby Keith, Kenny Chesney, Clint Black, and George Strait had all redone this song. So the only reason why I know Hey Good Looking from Hank Sr. is because of them. There is a song from Alan Jackson, if there is any Hank Sr. fans out there, and I heard this from Bischoff that he would talk about Hank Sr., Curt would. He also liked George Jones. There's only one song I know from George Jones, and it was a duet he did with Patty Loveless, and that's You Don't Seem to Miss Me. I wasn't really into George Jones, and like I said, I only know one song from Hank Sr., and that's because they redid it with a whole bunch of people. So, but I was a huge, I love George Strait. I love, Alan Jackson. I know if you watch, any of that stuff, that was done with the West Texas Rednecks, Curt mentions that there were certain, country singers there. I don't know if that's true, but, he said Alan Jackson, John Anderson, Mark Chestnut, cause I know Curt really liked Mark Chestnut. I did too. One of my favorite songs from Mark Chestnut was called Let It Rain. If you don't know it, it's a really great love song. So, if you do like country, but you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. It's called Let It Rain from Mark Chestnut. John Anderson, Seminole Win is okay. I was more for like Straight Tequila Night. Alan Jackson, I really like his Livin' on Love. And, trying to think what other song he had. Who's Cheating Who? Chattahoochee was okay. Summertime Blues was a remake, so that's an older song that he remade. Oh boy. He did, another song from Don Williams. He remade it. Alan Jackson, and I really like his version of the Don Williams song, It Must Be Love. So Alan Jackson redid It Must Be Love, and boy, I'll tell you, that's a great song. Yeah, I was really into the country scene, especially the girls, and usually it was before they went pop. So like Leanne Rimes before she went pop, Shania Twain before she went pop. I remember Toby Keith before he went all like cowboy. He had like long hair. If you ever heard like really early Toby Keith, like when he first came in the business, that was like my thing. I like Kenny Chesney before he got popular. Brian White, who's really never heard of anymore. That's how I met my best friend. We were fighting over the telescope to look at him. We do have a local Lancaster, well, we used to, I don't know. It's called Fall Fest, and we used to have country singers actually come to Lancaster, in Lancaster, PA. So, like, I've seen, Martina McBride, Trace Atkins came, Aaron Tippin was here. Cherie Austin was here. And so we're not like a big city, but we did always have a local, like little fall fest, and that's where country singers would come. And I remember that's how I met my best friend. When I was about 9 years old, I think, when I met her. So, and we later found out that, our parents knew each other. So, but anyway, we were known for the local country scene, and we would have every year, it was like the first or second week in October, we would always have country singers come to Lancaster County, or Lancaster, PA. And it was sponsored by a local, country station here in Ephrata. So, and that's in Lancaster County. For those who are not prone or do not know Lancaster County very well, it's, some people call it Ephrata, some people call it Ephrata. So, whatever your personal preference is, you want to call it. But yeah, so there was a local country station here in Ephrata, and they would always sponsor it, and they would bring in country singers. Like Martina McBride came back like twice, and I love her stuff. Before she went all pop, I love her stuff. She actually taught me how to be loud, but also be like able to hold my breath. People don't know this, but I do like to sing. I've been singing since I was able to talk, but, and I was in choir too. I was in choir all through school. So, I hope I do, Rap is Crap, I do justice, I hope. But like I said, I probably will have to sing it because I don't want any copyright strikes or anything. So, in the future, we're talking in the future, later episodes. But yeah, every time they would, come out, I would be singing Rap is Crap. And I think, to be honest, when I found out Curt was a big country music fan, I was kind of like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome. So am I, And I saw, what was I was watching YouTube or something, and I heard Barry Windham go, it was a joke, I think, I hope. Anyway, Barry Windham was saying, oh, you couldn't sing as worse than Curt or something. And I was like, what? That had to be a rib, because I'm telling you, Curt's voice was fine. I mean, I could see him being a singer if he wanted to be. I didn't see anything wrong with Rap is Crap. I think he also did Good Old Boys, their second song, which Jeff Jarrett liked so much that he had it for his music, I think. I'm not sure. All I know is that it was a joke, and they're like, oh, you couldn't sing worse than Curt. I was like, what are you talking about? Curt sang just fine. I would compare his voice to, gosh, I don't know, maybe George Jones, maybe Hank Sr., a little more recent, maybe Mark Chestnut. He had that low voice. That's why I would have to, kind of sing a little higher. I could get down low because I did love Kenny Chesney and Toby Keith and Clint Black when he first came in, George Strait when he had those older songs, when he did the movie Pure Country, which I do have, on my external hard drive, and I really like that movie. But yeah, well, when I asked the question, I thought maybe Curt had told them. It would be better to ask Curt, hey, what was it like being on stage with Chad Brock? Because Chad Brock, for those who don't know him, is a country singer. I was also told that he was also a wrestler back in the day. So Chad Brock was a wrestler and didn't really make it in wrestling, I'm guessing. So he actually went to singing. He went to country singing, country music. So interesting enough, I was not able to find anything with Chad Brock in wrestling, so I don't know. And you know what's really crazy is that if you go back and try to look for that event, Curt getting on stage with Chad Brock, they took it out. Why? Did it have to do with copyright reasons? Maybe. Kind of like the Rick Rude thing where, when Hollywood Hogan would come out, they would have that Jimi Hendrix start, but I guess they couldn't get the rights, so they had to do like a remix, or they had to make their own mix or something. Something went wild there, okay? Anyway, so the person I should be asking is Curt Hennig. And I would love to get Curt's take on what he thought of Chad Brock and what was his favorite Mark Chestnut song and that kind of stuff. Well, I don't have that ability. Kind of can't ask him. So maybe if I, say it out loud, maybe I'll hear an answer. I don't know. But anyway, so when he was on stage with Chad Brock, he was supposed to play this. He was jealous of Chad Brock. So, oh, what are you doing here on Nitro? I'm the singer here. I'm the country singer here. And like I said, Curt can sing. Okay. I thought maybe Curt had said something, oh, it was so cool being on stage with Chad Brock. It was really, really cool. I don't know. I just asked a question thinking, oh, maybe they know. But like I said, when I found out Curt was a country music, he liked country music, I was like, oh yeah, me too. And like I said, there was some that I just absolutely adored. Terry Clark, some of the unknowns before you didn't even hear about them. Like I said, Martina McBride before she went, pop. Cherie Austin was an Australian singer, and she had some good ones. She didn't really get popular. She was more of a country person. And there's some who refused to go pop, so you didn't really hear of them. I remember some songs from Leanne Womack before she was pop. In fact, I love her. One of the first songs she came out with was, Little Past Little Rock. And I absolutely love that song. So, anyway, I threw out that question because I thought maybe, because Konnan worked with Curt during the whole, Master P thing and the West Texas Rednecks, I thought maybe Curt went back to him one time and just said, well, I was on stage with Chad Brock. Cause like I said, he did mention those country singer names. Oh, Mark Wills was the other one I couldn't think of. Mark Wills. He goes, yeah, Mark Wills is here. Mark Chestnut is here. Blah, blah, blah. Actually, I did like some other stuff from Mark Chestnut. Going Through the Big D, A Little Too Late. Sure Is Monday. I like to sing that one every time it is Monday. But then there's, I don't really like the newer stuff, to be honest. I don't think Curt would either. And like I said, he was more for the older kind of country, which is fine. I like Loretta Lynn. I love her You Ain't Woman Enough to Take My Man. I love that. When I heard that in the movie Coal Miner's Daughter, when I heard that song, I was like, oh, I gotta hear the original. I do like Patsy Cline. In fact, I love to sing Patsy Cline. And of course, Johnny Cash. Who doesn't remember A Boy Named Sue? If anyone in country remembers anything from Johnny Cash, it was A Boy Named Sue. June Carter Cash, who was his wife eventually, there was some stuff from her that I sort of liked, but I more liked stuff from her daughter. So Carlene Carter, came out with a couple of songs in the 80s and 90s that I liked. And then, which is really crazy, but I also like a song from Rosanna Cash. I like a couple songs from her. But the one I like is I Don't Know Why You Don't Want Me. And she came out with that in the 80s, I'm pretty sure. So both the daughters from the, top singers of the, 60s and 70s, June Carter Cash, and then also, Johnny Cash. Like I said, I know a couple of songs from Hank Sr., but I didn't really know Hey Good Looking until they remade it with all the people I mentioned. And the only George Jones song I know is literally his duet with Patti Loveless, is You Don't Seem to Miss Me. But I thought this was a good feud. I thought it was a great feud, between, rap and country because, and honestly, I want to play the interview that the radio host does right before Curt passes. And that's, he said you can be a lover of both. I love all music. So it wasn't just country. I mean, country was probably his favorite to go to, but, I definitely think that Curt probably listened to pretty much anything, including rap. So, like I said, I would love to play that interview for you, but among country lovers, people who love country music, like as much as me and Curt do, they were baby faces. And for everyone who liked rap and hated country, they were heels. So I can see it from that perspective that he was sort of, they wanted to be heels as far as I know, but for the country people out there, they were more baby faces. So it was kind of like pick who you like, either rap or country. You can like both, but I wasn't really much for rap. I have to admit, I don't really go for the rap scene. I was more country. And I remember just sitting in my mom's room and just watching CMT all day long. And that's how I learned how to sing the songs. I did like Garth Brooks back in like 93, 94. And I did like one Billy Ray Cyrus album, and that was, Storm in the Heartland. So, I'm sure Curt had his favorites too, but the fact that he loved country as much as I did, and like I said, it makes me feel kind of closer to Curt because, we have a lot of things in common. That I liked a lot of the same singers he did. Well, especially in the 90s because, I didn't know a lot of older country, but yet I do know some. So there is that. But yeah, I just wanted to know, and I threw that in there now that I hear it. I just kind of threw it in there like, oh, have you heard of this? Or did he say anything about it? Because again, the person to talk to about that would be Curt. Oh, Curt, what was it like on stage with Chad Brock? And to be honest, I knew who Chad Brock was because again, I'm a country person. So, anyone knew who Chad Brock was. He was sort of new. At the time he had one hit song and that was She Said Yes. I wasn't really much for that song. I was more for Lightning Does the Work, which is a song he did on Nitro. Which is funny because you hear, Curt does an interview actually, you'd have to go back and look for it, but it's definitely, he's like, who's Chad Brock? I know around here they were really playing, especially on the local country stations, they were definitely playing, She Said Yes a lot. And I think, if you hear a song too much, it can get to the point where you're like, all right, enough is enough. Stop playing it. I had a couple like that. There was a couple I liked, and then they just overplayed them so much and I'm just like, ugh, turn it off. So I try not to listen to too many country songs, like a lot. Actually, what's funny is I was showing my man, The Thunder Rolls from Garth Brooks, which is one of my favorites. And I was telling him whenever they would do the third verse, it was always when Garth Brooks was live. So, if you ever wanted to hear that mysterious third verse, you'd have to hear it live. Well, I looked it up and there's I can't believe this. There's a heavy metal song that they redid with that third verse, The Thunder Rolls. I'm not kidding. Look it up on YouTube. You'll be able to find it. Just put in The Thunder Rolls. I don't remember the heavy metal band that does it, but it'll come up. Trust me, it'll come up. It'll also come up with Garth Brooks, but, yeah, I was floored. I was like, oh my God, there's heavy metal songs that were country first. And he did that song in 1990 and he only came out with the first two verses. And like I said, if you know anything about, country, usually they didn't mix. Not back in my day. Country didn't mix with rap. It didn't mix with heavy metal. It didn't mix with rock and stuff. But there is one thing, and I'm not going to try to get too political here, but there is one song that I wish would have been, it's kind of like that, Anthony something song, where they talk about the American dream being only when you're asleep. And if you do get a chance to hear it, it did come out in 93, I believe. It's a really great song, and it really tells it would be like if George Carlin came out with a country song. It was big. It's by Travis Tritt, and I was a big Travis Tritt fan. I love Travis Tritt. Especially when I saw his video for the one song he had. It was called, oh boy, I'm drawing a big blank. Foolish Pride by Travis Tritt. Anyway, the song that he did that was kind of political, but very truthful, especially for poor people, because they felt like rich people were really sticking it to them. It's called Lord Have Mercy on the Working Man. And I implore you to look this song up because it's a very cool song. I love it. And one of the lyrics is, why is the rich man busy dancing while the poor man pays the band? I guarantee you that if you feel the same way I do about how the rich are sticking it to us, listen to that song. You are going to love it. Cause literally he says, you know, it doesn't make any sense to him. You know, this person over here is literally poorer than poor, and this person's over here dancing and not doing any work. So check it out if you can. It's Lord Have Mercy on the Working Man by Travis Tritt. If you want to check out Lightning Does the Work from Chad Brock, which was another good one. Because, like I said, I'm a big country fan, and I know Curt was too. I just think that would make us bond and become friends. You know, we could sit there and say all the songs that we like. And he also was a good singer. I love to sing. So, and like I said, I was in choir all through school and stuff, so it's something I definitely like to do. But I'm gonna take a little break, guys, so I will see you on the flip side. Okay, guys, and we're back. So, I just want to talk about the last couple of things here. So, we're going to talk about Curt's ribs. Of course, Curt was nefarious for ribs, as not my last episode, but in episode 14, we did go over some of the ribs that Curt pulled on other wrestlers and them talking about it. So, it doesn't surprise me that he played jokes on, or he pulled ribs on Billy Kidman. I actually liked watching him, and then he was part of Raven's flock, and I didn't like Raven, so I was like, ugh, get away from me. Stevie Richards was another one. I was just like, get away from Raven. And there's nothing wrong with Steve. He was fine. I just didn't like his gimmick. What I find interesting though is, he says, oh, he got Dave Penzer's, suitcase up on the roof, on the ceiling, I'm like, did you pull a Sting thing and go up there and do, oh, it's Sting. Sting did it. I wouldn't be surprised if Curt tried to say that too. Oh, Sting did it. And I wasn't much for Sting either. I will be honest, guys. Wasn't much for Sting. And in that Crow period was even worse. So, like I said, I was more for the NWO and for Curt Hennig. And then eventually Rick Rude would come into it too. So, yeah, I don't know. I love it how they talk about those ribs. And I did hear a wrestler say one time, Curt taught them this, is even if you get caught in a rib, always deny that you're the reason why that rib is happening. So never confess to your own ribs. Even if you get caught, just don't acknowledge it like it's not even happening. Don't even acknowledge it. I forget who said that. I think it was Brian Knobbs. We were listening to the Nasty Boys, Brian Knobbs, and I think he's the one who said it. So, so I don't doubt for a second that they led everyone around. Oh, we're going to find out who stole Kidman's clothes. And it was Curt the whole time. Again, don't give it up. Don't give up that rib. Even if it was you, don't give it up. That's why the reasons why I love Curt. I'd be like, it's a good thing we're friends, Curt. But they talk about, Disco got hit by, Larry the Axe, which I don't remember that. I do remember, I think it was Tenryu. There was a Japanese wrestler that Curt was facing, and they were in Minnesota, and like the one interview beforehand, they were talking about Rick Rude's father and Larry the Axe, who is Curt's father, and that they were also friends, and Rick was saying like, oh, they're probably enjoying a beer somewhere or something. That's the one I remember, and I remember Larry took a shot on the man that Curt was facing. But I don't remember the whole Jesse Ventura being there and no one saying anything about it. It could have been a house show that someone, taped eventually. Kind of like on this WCW Saturday Night thing. Which is something that I think they used to do on like, prime time. So it could have been something like that, but that's awesome that, you know, Jesse, right before he took the governorship, actually was at ringside with Larry the Axe. That's awesome. But I don't remember seeing that. So, I mean, I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying that I don't remember that because it had to be 98 because I think he went in like late 98, early 99. So, it had to be 98 when Jesse was there. But again, you know, no one's going to acknowledge Jesse because he was fired by Eric Bischoff. So, and there was very bad feelings there, I'm sure. But hey, it's cool that Jesse showed up, you know, just to be there with his friend Larry the Axe. And like I said, if you listen to Jesse, when I interviewed him on Clubhouse, he talks about Larry like, you know, with such admiration. So I have no doubts that, you know, Jesse was also close with Curt, you know. And like I said, there's that interview, the radio interview that I want to do where Curt says, you know, who told him to run? I told him to run. And, you know, Curt just kind of laughs. He's like, no, I'm just joking. I actually told that to Jesse, as you heard in the interview, and Jesse's like, gotta be careful of those wrestlers. They try to rib you as much as they can. And I was just like, no, I think Curt was just joking. So, you know, Disco, Konnan talks about how, you know, they're in Vegas and Curt is drunk, having fun, and he's still winning he's throwing the dice and he's still winning. I mean, hello, the guy was Mr. Perfect. Even when he was out, he was still Mr. Perfect, okay? Which doesn't surprise me, that he was really good at all that stuff. Like, you know, if I would play poker with, Curt, I probably would have lost my shirt. I'd be like, Curt, you owe me. Never play poker with, Curt Hennig because you probably would lose. Not probably, you would. But the fact that Konnan says, oh, he looked like a lumberjack. He was talking about Larry the Axe. Yeah, that's one of the other reasons why I wouldn't mess with Larry the Axe. You know, yes sir, no sir. Yes, Mr. Hennig. I wouldn't want Larry to sit on me for sure. I'd be like a grease spot on the floor. So, yeah, that's one of the guys I wouldn't mess with. And I would definitely say, you know, Mr. Hennig until he would be like, just call me Larry. Okay. Larry. But I had a really fun time, you know, sending these emails out and then hearing the response, you know, cause everyone loves to talk about Curt. Even Stone Cold Steve Austin, as we found out, loves talking about Curt. So even if you didn't know him per se, you didn't know him like, you know, really personally, if you were around Curt, he was, from everything I've heard, he was, you know, a breath of fresh air to always, you know, keep you laughing even if you were down or even if he was down. Like, if he was feeling awful, I could, you know, see him just trying to smile through it. And that's why he's sorely missed. Because, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, we wish. If I could have one wish, and that would be to have Curt Hennig back and meet him, face to face. So, that would be my all-time wish. That's the only thing I probably would wish for at this point, is just to have Curt Hennig back and to meet him face to face and get to know his personality. And, you know, cause fans only saw Curt on wrestling. You saw him on TV. And he had to play a certain character. Not a lot of fans saw him behind the scenes. I mean, you did if you met him. And I heard a one story where a guy said, yeah, my son met Curt and signed an autograph for him and became that he became a Curt Hennig fan. So I think that outside of things, Curt was even more special because he was an all-around nice guy and really cared about his fans, you know. If you were a Curt Hennig fan, you know, he would go out of his way to make sure you got an autograph or something. And he just, from everything I can tell, you know, he had that sense of humor and something that I have in common with him because, you know, I tried to joke with Disco Inferno and, you know, I'm not as good as Curt. I think Curt was better, but you know, I'm trying. But that's just something that, you know, was brought up. But, I think it's very sweet that, you know, Larry was there whenever they were in Minnesota. Like I said, I remember the match, I think it was May of 98, May 3rd or 4th. I don't know. You have to go back and look at Thunder, but it's around May. It's like the beginning of May. They're in Minnesota, for Thunder it was Nitro. It was Nitro. So look at the early May in Nitro, 1998. And it's right before he went to the Wolfpack NWO. See, I don't get why they split the NWO in the first place. Eric Bischoff wanted to do that, but I just, I didn't like it. I liked that Curt was part of the Wolfpack, and then it kind of like he went back to NWO Hollywood. It's like he was like a mole for the NWO Hollywood. And then he was against Konnan again. So, you know, he turned on Konnan at, not Slamboree. The Great American Bash. He turned against him at the Great American Bash. And then, I think Bash at the Beach, they were with the Giant. Because I think he was in the NWO by then. Yeah, and him and Sting had just become, tag team partners and tag team champs. And then, you know, Paul White went back to the NWO Hollywood. It seemed inevitable. The only one that didn't seem inevitable was Ray Traylor. Ray Traylor was in the NWO, and this is the Big Boss Man for WWF people. Ray Traylor, or the Big Boss Man, he was in the NWO, and then he just spent like the rest of his career trying to get back at the NWO. Yeah, I don't know. It didn't make any sense to me either. But Paul White was kind of like that. He was in the NWO, and then they kicked him out, and then he went back to the NWO. Right around the time that him and Sting became champions. Which is weird. And then Sting joined the Wolfpack. I was just like, ugh. They were trying to get DDP, because I love it. Curt was in the ring with crutches, and if I remember correctly, you'll have to go back. It was in June 1st, June 8th. Yeah, you'll have to go back, but 1998, June 1st and June 8th, they were trying to get DDP into the Wolfpack because Curt had already joined. It was the end of May, 1998. And yeah, Curt had joined the Wolfpack, but that's funny, he never wrestled for the Wolfpack, which kind of makes you think, oh, he was a mole or something. He was playing both sides. Because when he went back to the NWO Hollywood, he actually did wrestle. Unfortunately, it was against Goldberg. And guys, I wasn't much for Goldberg. The dude couldn't wrestle. Sorry. But Curt made him look good. And I did get, for all you Eric Bischoff fans, I'm really sorry, but Eric Bischoff was on X and he was saying, oh, you know, he was ratting on Tony Khan or something. And I said, why do you care, Eric? You ignored the people who knew the wrestling business and you gave title shots to people who didn't know the business at all. As AKA Curt Hennig, he just totally ignored him, wouldn't let him have the belt, and he gave a title shot to Goldberg, who just came from football. Does anyone remember Bill Goldberg's football career? No, I don't. I don't remember any of that. But I do remember his wrestling career. Anyway, that's just a little beef I had with Goldberg. I wasn't much for Goldberg because it's like the whole Kevin Green thing. You know, they were trying to, and what's funny is I didn't know Kevin Green was part of the Steelers. But he was at one point. But they were bringing in like Kevin Green and stuff, and they actually had Kevin Green, I think on Nitro, come out and say, guess who I was roommates with in 91 or whatever? Goldberg. Well, whoopee. You know what? 91, Curt Hennig was Mr. Perfect, and he was Intercontinental Champion, so, but then, you know, Curt played football in high school and college, so I'm not going to rat on the football players. I'm just going to say that, you know, when it came right down to it, I just think that Eric Bischoff gave Curt the raw deal. And Vince Russo did the same thing. When Vince Russo took over, Vince Russo wouldn't have given Curt a title shot. That was all honky bullcrap. I don't even know what that was. It was like he was with the higher, not the higher power. Yeah, the corporate higher ups or something. Vince Russo had the two twins, the Harris twins. And Curt was sort of like a power guy. And, whatever, I just think that Vince Russo really screwed him out of that too. So my disdain for Eric Bischoff is also my disdain for Vince Russo, because you literally could have had a great champion. Yeah, Curt was injured sometimes, but again, there's no reason why he couldn't have a feud with Bret Hart that included the heavyweight belt. You gave it to Bret, why wouldn't you give it to Curt? I don't understand that. So, I don't think other Curt Hennig fans, you know, understand what went on there. Bret was hurt. He was injured sometimes. So why allow, you know, Bret Hart to have it, but not Curt Hennig? I just don't understand that. I mean, in Portland, he was the Portland champion. In AWA, he was the heavyweight AWA champion. So again, I don't see what these people saw that, you know, Curt couldn't sell. That's not true. He obviously sold in AWA or he wouldn't have been the champion. Same with Portland. He obviously did sell. He also, you know, he did draw. So there's just no reason why he couldn't be WWF champion or WCW. And they did the same thing in TNA too. He had a match against Jeff Jarrett, but didn't win the belt. So they did the same exact thing to him in TNA, which, I mean, Curt couldn't catch a break. And I guess I feel awful for Curt. I'd just be like, why didn't you just say something? Like, tell somebody, hey, you know, I draw money. I want to be the champ. And like I said, they could have done it with him and Bret, you know, in both WWF and WCW. And like I said, they let Bret be WWF champ, WCW champ. I guess Curt's just chopped liver, huh? I'd hate to think that, but again, not a big Eric Bischoff fan, not a big, you know, Vince Russo fan. So, because I think they let an opportunity like this, pass them by. And again, you know, they let Ric Flair have the belt, for heaven's sake, 14 times, or 15 times. Oh, 14, 15, I don't know. And yet they wouldn't give it to Curt. That's a damn shame. And I just think that all those people, Eric Bischoff, Vince Russo, should be ashamed of themselves. Because he was a great champion. He was a great person, a great champion. Alright guys, well, we're gonna wrap this up. So I will take a little break and catch you on the flip side. Hey, Curt Hennig fans. I also wanted to let you guys know that if you can, please support Kit Cabello. He is fighting for his channel still. So it's Hardlands Media. If you could just go on Twitter and retweet all his stuff to YouTube and try to get him back on the air on his main channel, that would be great. Go to his Rumble. He just got authorized as a real channel on Rumble, But please help Kit Cabello. Alright guys, we're back. So I want to thank you for listening to this episode. Like I said, I have a lot of good ideas and things in the woodwork. And there's just so many ideas I got coming up. So many watch-alongs I want to do. You know, the Iron Claw came out, and I just want to, say that, I don't want to watch it. Just like I said, I don't want my image of Carrie to sort of be tarnished, because I did hear an interview with Curt, and he was like, Carrie Von Erich was a great wrestler and stuff like that. So I don't know how close Curt and him were, but, there's a lot of things that Carrie did that, and they both made each other look good. So they were both second generation, and Carrie Von Erich, I'm sure Curt and him kind of got along that way, that they were, both second generation and that kind of thing. So, I do want to do a watch along with SummerSlam 1990, where he takes the belt from Curt. If I can find it, I would love to do a watch along with when Curt literally, breaks character for like a second. Because I would love for everyone to see that. If I can't find it, I would if I can find it on like YouTube or something, I would post it and be like, this is one of the greatest moments ever, because Carrie got Curt to literally break character for a second. 1 second. He's just like, are you okay? Carrie says something, cause I think Curt was like, oh no, blood. Where's the blood coming from? I'm not bleeding. I think that was an awesome time. Even though Carrie's nose was bleeding by accident. I don't know if Curt caught him or anything, but he might have by accident. So it was like an accident. But I definitely will try to find that again. It's one of my favorites, where literally Curt breaks character. Cause that was a big no-no, especially back in that day. And back in 1990, you didn't really break character for that. But, they obviously were friends. Cause, you wouldn't, if Carrie wasn't his friend, I don't think he would have asked him if he was okay. So like I said, guys, I have a lot of things in the work. I would like to do interviews if I can get a hold of people. I will try to send out more emails if I can, but more or less, I think we're going to do, from here, probably a lot of watch-alongs. See, I'm telling you, you gotta hear the blooper reel, cause it's even more funny than this. So we would definitely, look into like the Carrie match. I do want to do the Bret Hart SummerSlam 91 match between him and Curt. And the thing with Carrie, the SummerSlam 1990 was in Philadelphia. So, and that's like 2 hours east of me. So I literally, back then, if I could have, I would have drugged my father all the way to Philly to see Curt. And, if I could have met him face to face, I would have. And he would have had a 4-year-old fan. Hey Curt, I'm 4 years old. Hi. Mr. Perfect. You're my favorite wrestler. That kind of thing. So, I wonder how Curt would feel about that, having a 4-year-old fan like that. I don't know. But, what I'd like to do is a watch along with, not only the match itself, but I want to do both interviews. So they do interviews before and after the match. They do Curt first, him and Bobby Heenan, and then, they do the Texas Tornado, and then it's the match, and then they do the post-match interview with Curt. So I'd like to do the whole thing, do the whole watch along from start to finish, but we're definitely going to put in the promos, because the promos were excellent back then. I just love it when Bobby Heenan says something about, all tornadoes are good for is kicking up dust and knocking over a few trailers or something. I was like, ugh, you don't want to be in an F5, Bobby. That's total devastation on EF5. And I love learning about tornadoes, so that's, when he said that, I was kind of like, you do know there are stronger tornadoes than anyone's ever heard of, right? I mean, the most, the highest wind speed was like 3 ever recorded. So this would be the highest wind speed of any tornado ever recorded was 312 miles per hour. And that's devastation at that point. So, and I like watching those documentaries that they have. There was a couple in Joplin, or there's one in Joplin. There was a couple in Moore, Oklahoma. Total devastation. And I like watching them because I like it for the science. I like to hear, like, how they think that when, tornadoes are formed and stuff. Cause I think it's one of nature's big mysteries. One supercell will produce a tornado and there could be identical supercells. One will produce a tornado, the other one won't. Why? And scientists still don't know that. So, anyway, I'm not much of a nature freak, but, but no, I like learning about tornadoes and how they form and stuff. So, but anyway, Carrie was known as the Texas tornado. That's why. But in the promo, when Bobby says that, I'm kind of like, apparently he's never been in an F5. Well, back then it would have been not the Fujita scale or the enhanced Fujita scale. So, if you saw Twister, no. You wouldn't know it's an F5 because usually they won't, sometimes they'll go on wind speeds, but, the way you could tell if it's an F0, F1, F2, F3, F4, F5 is the destruction afterwards. So, when they start getting into the enhanced Fujita scale, it's more based on the devastation. So they would say it's an F4 because, a house will be taken off its foundation. If you get into an EF5, there is no foundation. It's literally devastation. If you have ever seen an EF5 or have seen the destruction afterwards, literally an EF5 is wiping foundations from the earth. I think there was one in Jarrett, Texas, back in the 90s. There was one in Minnesota in 93. Complete devastation. An EF5 in Minnesota. And it just looked like a war zone. But anyway, enough science, makes my brain hurt sometimes. But anyway, I would really like to do the Texas Tornado Mr. Perfect in 1990 at SummerSlam. And like I said, we're going to do the promos beforehand, and then we're going to end with the promo afterwards, which is Curt and Bobby, doing that promo. Oh, we lost the belt, but I'm going to get it back, Texas Tornado, that kind of thing. So, stay tuned, guys, because there's a lot of good stuff coming up. Like I said, good watch-alongs. Maybe I'll sing Rap is Crap. Who knows? We'll see. But remember, everyone, nobody beats Mr. Perfect. Nobody.